I'm speaking with Pat Henry in her garden outside of Lawrence, South Carolina. Pat is one of the owners of Roses Unlimited right down the road, and she didn't leave all the roses right down the road, however. Pat, tell me how this garden evolved and how you ended up here.
My husband was transferred from Chattanooga with 3M Company, and we had to choose between Lawrence and St. Paul, Minnesota. So we chose Lawrence.
You were already a rose aficionado.
Absolutely. I've been growing roses really since probably the early 60s, and I've changed my mind on a lot of roses over the years, and in this garden are mostly Cordes roses out of Germany. That's K-O-R-D-E-S.
And why are they so uniquely satisfactory?
They're just so healthy. In Germany, it became impossible to spray insecticides, chemicals. They had to choose roses propagate toward or hybridize toward things that were disease resistant, and they truly are. They're in every color, gorgeous, always happy to look at. In fact, this is a yellow right here. Every woman loves a yellow rose. You can grow this without chemicals. This is Sunny June.
Sunny June, and she is beautiful. And even in South Carolina, with the huge challenges, the Cordes roses you do not spray.
Do not spray them.
And the ones I've seen have been absolutely beautiful.
They are, and I have probably some 60 varieties in this garden.
What are some of the others that are in here?
Dark Desire, gorgeous red. A climber that is over there is a beautiful climber, graceful. All of these are easy to grow.
And you've got, where we're standing, I see you've got deer fences and then lots of props for roses, because you do like for them to be able to have their natural form.
I do.
And to keep the deer away.
I do. I guess my type of garden is more of a relaxed English garden. It's not formal, but some parts you want formality, but I love them just to be what they are. And if they nod a little bit, that's beautiful.
Well, let's move on to another room in your garden, shall we?
All right.
Pat, we're in a white garden, and I'm sure as the twilight comes, it's just beautiful up here.
It is beautiful, and the white garden, I wanted to have a mixture of different classes of roses.
What are classes of roses?
Well, there are bourbons, there are chinas, there are English, there are hybrid teas, floribundas. There's a number beyond that. But in this garden, there are noisettes,
yes,
which is native to South Carolina. And there are old teas from the 1800s. There's polyanthas, that means many little flowers. That's a class, polyanthas.
What are some of your specific favorites?
I love Bolero for one. It's a floribunda. It's pretty much clear white.
Is that unusual for a white rose?
There are some that are purer than others in white. Most of them have yellow or a little blush of pink with them.
Just a twinge.
But that's kind of fun too, that everything is not just so-so.
Well, let's move on to another room while we're here.
All right.
Pat, although you've been gardening here since the 1980s, people shouldn't feel like they can't have a pretty good-looking rose garden quickly, because I think this garden is relatively new.
It's very new. It was started in 2017, September. This was just a long line of those tall azaleas that I wanted out of here. They bloom one time and they're to be cut back and taken care of. So I decided that this is what I want, is this new type of garden.
But you got a head start because you had a lot of roses growing in containers.
If you grow your roses in containers, then they're ready to move to the ground. And then some you just might want to leave in containers. You have to be a good mother, water often, which I do, and I like to do that. I like my yard art. It's kind of fun to play around with things to make it a little pretty.
Do you have a favorite one or two in here?
I love Chantelle Moreau, especially. I love this one, James Galway. It's in English, very graceful.
It's hard not to love them all.
Love them all.
Well, let's move on to another area. Pat, climbers have come a long way from Lady Bankshire,
That's for sure, that's for sure.
a one-time bloomer. So let's talk about some of your favorite climbers.
There are two in this garden that I particularly love. Quicksilver. This is one of the finest lavenders. That's a color that's very hard to come by, and especially disease resistant. This is a cortis, reblooms. It's a good cut flower.
It has such long stems for a climber.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then there's Princess Anne, which is in English. And some of the English will make climbers and some are short. You have to know which one is which.
But this one obviously is a climber.
And reblooms, and it's had hundreds of blooms and still blooming.
And so a climber doesn't necessarily have to have an armature that's huge built for it. With selective pruning, you can still let it have its natural form, but not let it take over the world.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Well, I'm so glad to learn about these.
Yeah, these are two loves.
All right. Pat, you have a few roses that ought to be center stage, but you just kind of put them helter-skelter, and I think this is one that surprised you.
Very much. I had not seen this rose, but it's another cortis, and I wanted to grow it.
And what's the name of it?
Land Lust.
L-U-S-T, Land Lust.
Right.
All right.
And many times a climber or a shrub will not bloom the first year. They build up strength. So I didn't see a bloom on this last year. But this year,
Oh, it's making up for a lot.
absolutely gorgeous. Just one stem is a bouquet.
And again, as a cortis, it doesn't have, you never are going to spray this for diseases, but I think in your whole garden, you don't use any insecticides.
I do not. I stopped that I didn't spray any insecticide all last year. If you've got a few thrips or if you've got a few of whatever, I just let it go.
And when the Japanese beetles come by, you just do something else till they go.
That's right.
All right,
That's
well, let's
right.
go see another one.
Thank you.
Well, Pat, here we are finally in a little bit of shade with a rose that has a wonderful story.
This is a rambler. There's a difference in a climber and a rambler. The rambler can ramble into the trees, you can see. This plant itself has got to be very close to 100 years old. The Winghaven Gardens in Charlotte, Mrs. Clarkson had a neighbor, Elizabeth Lawrence, and this was in her garden, and all it said is left back garden. And they wanted me to bring it home and see if I could nurse it back to health. And that's what it is.
And you just put the pot back there and it rooted itself in the ground and has been happily growing ever since.
It's just a happy rose, and this is one you can grow in part shade because the leaves on the trees drop during the winter. It gets enough sun to provide the energy, and then it just loves it back here. The birds love it.
I'm glad it came home from Charlotte.
Yes.
Pat, this is the first garden where you had places to sit down, and I think there's a little bittersweetness when you think about that.
That is true. My husband, in his latter years, was very ill, and he would come out on his walker, and he would sit here and read the paper, and we had picnics here and fun times together, and he loved it. And these chairs are sort of funny. Freddie Payne, that helps me every day, he was going to take them to the dump, and I said, just dump them here. So I'm going to keep these chairs just because we sat in them.
Well, and after walking around your garden, I'm happy to sit down for a moment. And I wonder if there's some special roses here that you have fond memories of, thoughts associated with.
A lovely apricot, heaven on earth.
Oh, what a beautiful
And
name.
it is heaven on earth. And then there's a purple called Plum Perfect, and it is plum perfect. It's purple and beautiful. There's a lovely climber here called Polka.
Everywhere you look, you're surrounded by beauty. There's a lot of work that goes on, and I want to thank you for taking time from your busy schedule here and at Roses Unlimited to let Making It Grow come and visit at your lovely rose-filled home.
I thank you, and I'm glad that you came and saw a lot of beautiful roses.